Okay. Then, in a very real way, you can see that these represent three different metaphysical models that have shaped those periods in history. And whether you're interested in art history or literature or the history of politics, in history of theology, you see, all of it reflects the metaphysical arrangement. Oh, admittedly, there's no point where there's an end to the Greco-medieval model, and thereafter everybody thinks in the Renaissance Enlightenment. No, in actual practice, it comes in this sort of way, that you get the Greco-medieval model, coming along, then another one picks up, and then another one picks up, but this one sort of continues, even though it may not have as much influence, you see. Okay? And roughly the dates of transition, well, you'd have to say 14 to 1600 AD in there is the transition time. Okay, the transition here is 18 to 1900 in that range, depending on the discipline or aspect of culture and intellectual history you're talking about. Yes, now, the metaphysical model here is drawn from the Greeks, from Plato and Aristotle. Plato dominates the scene, I think it's fair to say, from, let's say, about 400, 300, or 400 AD. Now, he wrote at 400 BC. Yes, and there were Platonic developments all the way along after that. But he began to dominate Western culture 300, 400 AD until 1100, 1200. Yes, then an Aristotelian surge before the Renaissance. Well, what is characteristic of Plato and Aristotle is their theory of forms. If you like, the model that dominates the scene is this, a hierarchical model. And you have hierarchical social structure in the Middle Ages. Hierarchical ecclesiastical structure. You see. So much so that some people still think that everything ought to be hierarchically organized. To this day. Sexes included. That's a Greek model. You see. Well, and what you get in the Renaissance Enlightenment, of course, if you call this model number one, this is model number two, what's the model? Well, it's that of mechanistic science. The thing that was systematized by Newton. Began a lot earlier, the scientific revolution. And that has tremendous implications. Philosophically, it rejected the notion that there is any intrinsic cosmic order. Everything's a product of matter and motion. There's no metaphysical basis for morals in the nature of things. Who could take a thing so dead and embrace it for his mortal good? Remember the lines of Tennyson? In memoriam. Can I take a thing so dead, embrace it for my mortal good? He's talking about the world of blind, dead, inert matter, being pushed around by blind forces. A world that's devoid of any intrinsic meaning or value. And the nihilism of some of the existentialists like Sartre is simply a late reaction against that. A reaction that began with Romanticism. And on the scientific side, with the development of a more organic model, organic relationships. In biology, the rise of developmental biology around 1800, early genetics. In physics, electromagnetic field theory. And then the development of relativity physics, quantum mechanics, and that sort of thing, energistic physics. Where you think not in terms of isolated chunks of matter pushed around, but in terms of whole energy fields and systems. Organic wholes. To an ecosystem, an organic whole. Trouble is that while we learn to think that way scientifically, we still do some of our thinking and living as if the mechanistic things were. Yes. And some disciplines are much more tied to this than others. Yes. Well, my point is that in introducing Plato's theory of forms, we're getting a first look at model number one, which tends to dominate, not in an exclusivist sense, but tends to dominate Western thought, and incidentally Muslim thought as well, way through into the Renaissance. And continues to have a profound influence thereafter. Some of you in literature may be aware of the Cambridge Platonists' influence on people like Milton and so forth. But that metaphysical model of profound importance. Okay, now, this, you might say, what's this model usually called? Well, obviously, Plato's version is referred to as Platonism. Trouble is, the word Platonism is used as well for a Neoplatonism that developed in the 3rd, 4th century AD. Sometimes used also for a Middle Platonism in the 1st, 2nd century AD. What do you think of that, incidentally, because it had a profound influence on the Alexandrian Church and on the development of Christian thought, that Middle Platonism. So the term Platonism itself is ambiguous. Sometimes the term realism is used, because if we're talking about the theory of forms, the distinctive thing here is that the forms are real entities, in some sense. Same is true for Aristotle, in a somewhat different sense, real entities. So this becomes known as realism. Realism about universals, realism about forms. Okay. And the mechanistic denies the reality of forms. So it's not realistic in this sense. And there are some aspects of the organic model, the way it's worked out philosophically, which reintroduce theories of forms. In different, I was going to say in different form, well, in a different way. Okay. Now, this theory of forms of Plato, then, is about the objects of knowledge, which are another kind of reality than physical particulars or any other particulars. They're eternal, and they provide a realm of ideals, so that they have not only significance in epistemology, in providing possible objects of knowledge, significance in cosmology, in explaining the orderedness of nature, significance in ethics, yes, social and political thought, aesthetics, in terms of values. You know, wide-ranging. Now, you might find yourself raising all sorts of difficulties with this. It's by no means a theory which all the Greeks accepted. It's not a theory in Plato's form of it that Aristotle was satisfied with. In fact, the first book of Aristotle's Metaphysics, which we'll be reading, is a criticism of what all of his predecessors, all of the pre-Socratics, have to say about the ordinariness of nature, including Plato. It's very critical of Plato. But Plato himself isn't satisfied with it either. It's a fascinating thing. Plato himself isn't satisfied with it. And in one of the segments which we have in Kaufmann, that you'll be reading for this coming week, you have Plato's own self-criticism on the theory. Plato's own self-criticism. Now, of course, the Parmenides is a dialogue. And to suppose that Plato and Socrates ever had a dialogue with Parmenides would be a gross anachronism. Especially since one of the other characters in the dialogue is none other than Zeno, the Eleatic. Parmenides and Zeno. Remember those two guys? Absolute monism. Everything is one, all-inclusive, unchanging, eternal thing. No plurality, no change. Okay. Well, that's quite a dramatic setting. All right, what he does, and this is really my structuring of the Parmenides section, which is tough reading. Okay. What he does in this section of the Parmenides, which we're reading, is to get Zeno, the Eleatic, to state a thesis. Okay. Zeno's thesis. Now, since it's fictionalized, we're not at all sure that this was actually Zeno's thesis. It doesn't sound like Zeno of the fragments, though it sounds like it's related to it. So we take it as it is, without worrying the historical question. Okay, Zeno's thesis, as follows. If the many exist, then things are both like and unlike each other. But to both be like and not be like is self-contradictory. Therefore, pluralism, the view that the many exist, is false. Do you get it? Very simple hypothetical syllogism, in which the consequent is denied and so the antecedent is denied. If the many exist, now for the many to exist, of course, that would be pluralism. Reality consists of many, many things. And we all know that Zeno and Parmenides categorically denied any pluralism. So there seems to be then a possible Zeno argument against pluralism. If pluralism is false, what's the alternative? Monism. So it's an argument for the Eleatic position that they held. All right, if the many exist, then, many existing, they're going to be unlike each other. But yet obviously they're going to be like each other in some ways, in such a variety of things. But how can something be and not be something at the same time? You see? They say, oh, obviously there's something wrong with that. Well, what's wrong? What's wrong is pretty obvious. The appeal here is to the law of non-contradiction. A thing cannot both be and not be. But as Aristotle later spelled out the law of non-contradiction, it does not state that the thing cannot both be and not be. It says the thing cannot both be and not be at the same time and in the same respect. So if the many exist, they cannot both be and not be at the same time in the same respect, but they might be at different times in different respects. You see? So you and I might be alike in some ways and unlike in others, so what? No contradiction there. Well, Zeno puts it that way, and Socrates then questions Zeno, and questions Zeno as if he held to real forms, real form, or forms, to Zeno. Okay? And what you get coming out of it is a discussion of forms. And in that discussion, what surfaces is a variety of possible difficulties. Now, one of them, which you'll find on page 200, is posed by pointing out that likeness and unlikeness, what we've been talking about in Zeno's thesis, is not contradictory. It starts with that. Likeness and unlikeness is not contradictory. Being like something is not the same as being unlike something. That is to say, you can be like something with respect to form, ideal, pattern, archetype A, and you can be unlike something with respect to form, pattern, archetype B. Okay? Unlike in terms of size, but like in terms of the colour of their hair. Okay? Size is one quality, colour is a different quality. No problem. So, in terms of the theory of forms, then, this problem which Zeno's thesis implies may be difficult. That is to say, can a form both be and not be X? Like and unlike. So forth. And the difficulty here, you see, is that a form, in its very nature, is the principle of unity for a whole class of things. You see? There's only one form of colour, and a certain colour. Only one form of a certain colour. Only one form of likeness. A particular may be like and unlike something, but a form cannot, because it's not a mix. It's a unity. It's indivisible. Whereas particulars are divided. You can divide one quality from another and all the rest of it. So what about form? Well, that's one unanswered question. The second question arises from this. Are there forms of everything? For instance, forms of opposites. If a form cannot be both like and unlike, is there a form of likeness and a form of unlikeness? Because for something to be both like and unlike, it must participate in a form of likeness and a form of unlikeness. So are the forms of opposites. There's a form of solid. Is there a form of something which has lost its solidity and is now slime? You see? There's a form of right. Is there a form of wrong? There's a form of beauty. Is there a form of ugliness? There's a form of good. Is there a form of bad? Forms of opposites. But opposites are not the only thing. It's one thing to say there are forms of certain qualities and ideals, but are you really sure, Zeno, that there are forms of particular kinds of things? A form of humanness, a form of fire, the element, a form of water, the element, a form of hair, something so trivial, or of mud and dirt, so undignified for the Greek aristocratic to talk about, a form of excretion, and so forth. Are there forms of everything? Oh, no, there couldn't be. Now, what's coming up, in addition to this question of opposites, is the extent of forms. Are the forms of everything or only some things? And what's coming up particularly is the forms of things that have negative meaning, like evil. Oh, the problem of evil in an ordered cosmos. Yeah. If everything participates in an ideal form, is there an ideal form of wickedness? Is there an ideal adultery and an ideal murder? You think? And this is a puzzle which Plato has to take up in other dialogues. And before we're through, we'll see that there are two ways in which in the Platonic tradition the problem of evil is handled. One is by reverting to an eternal dualism. That is to say, there's an ordered realm of good and an ordered realm of evil. And some of you are familiar with ancient Gnosticism, which had some of that notion in it. We'll be talking about that subsequently. The other is to view evil as a privation of the good, as a deprivation, a loss, a lack, a negative. So that if I'm ugly, and, to avoid insulting anybody, I use the first person instead of the second person. If I'm ugly, it's not because I participate in the form of ugliness, it's because I fail to participate as fully as I might in the form of beauty. I suffer from some privation, some depravity, which is where the word comes from, of my beauty. So those questions have to be addressed. Third, are forms inherent patterns? That is to say, are there patterns of some sort inherent in the nature of things, so that forms are like patterns, like particulars are like patterns? Copies. Now, the question arising there is, what does it mean to say that a particular participates? A participation question. And that participation question gives rise to what's called the third man argument. The third man argument. To the effect that if a particular is said to be like the form, okay, then in order for us to be able to say that a particular is like the form, we must have not only a conception of the particular, not only a conception of the form, but also a conception of the particular and the form together and that in which they share, the likeness. A third something. If you are like the form of humanness, then in order to say that, we must be able to know the form of likeness which binds the two together. A third man. And how are you going to stop? In order to know that that third man concept applies, then there must be another one which unites the third man with the particular or with the form, you've got a fourth. And then you must have a fifth. That's like a Zeno's paradox going on. How long does the chicken ever cross the street? Remember? Always further to go. And then the final problem that in this section we get is the question, can forms really be known? Because you notice that one dialogue of Plato's after another finishes by saying, well, this is the way then in which we conclude, or, well, we don't know. And, whenever you get a dialectic going on, you always feel as if you want to say at the end, well, I suppose that's right until some smarter aleck comes along with another difficult question. Like debates, they don't settle anything, just who's the smartest aleck, until the other guy thinks of something else. In other words, is there as much difference between rhetoric and dialectic as Plato seems to be assuming? Can forms be known? One of the problems is that, that if a form is going to be known, it's going to be known by a mind. But if there's going to be any knowing relationship between a mind and a form, then a mind must be like a form, and a mind is a particular. My particular mind. Now, presumably,